İyi akşamlar.
Good
Ee,
evening. Good evening, participants. With all aspects of special education, with all aspects from integration, from inclusion to integration, we're on the third day of the symposium. I am the director of this Spastic Children of Turkey Foundation of Turkey. My name is Pınar Yüksel. I am the graduate of special education, and since 2014, for 4 years, I have been the director of this institution. I will not take much of your time, and now I would like to give the floor to Dr. Handan Doğan for the speech on inclusion on different levels of education, limiting situations and recommendation. She's from Maltepe University. First of all, good evening, I would like to say. And I would like to thank for the invitation to the Turkish Spastic Children's Foundation. And thank you very much for accompanying me, Ms. Pınar Yüksel. First of all, I would like to introduce myself shortly. I am the graduate of Hacettepe University of Child Development and Development, and I have my master's degree in Chapa University and in Marmara University. I have my doctorate degree regarding the preschool education. Indeed, my career, at the beginning of my career, I started working in your institution, and that was named as the Spastic Children's Center. It was an association in 1983, and I spent 25 years, very long period of time. I work with cerebral palsy children with their, as well as with their families, and for 12 years, I have been the faculty member. Before all, I have the pleasure and honor being with you. Indeed, this is a subject we have been discussing for so many years, and at the beginning of my career, we were also talking about this. But this is a subject which is developing and changing, and even in those times, in order for those children to go to school, and especially in order for them to start a school, this was a big problem. And related to this, the families, the teachers, and every party who is involved in this process had problems, and had, as well as the children had many problems. This I remember. And indeed, rather than telling about what's going on lengthily, long, I would like to discuss differently. So I would like to look into different levels of inclusion. And we know that we start our life within a family, and then afterwards there comes another family, that's preschool education. And in time, this is actually there is this increase in participation. And in the old times, there was no preschool education, and the school was attended as soon firstly and before without preschool. So primary school, secondary school, high school, university, we have to ask whether there is inclusion. Yes, but how this is done? Actually, there have been many studies done, and in Turkey as well as in the world, and just rapidly all these studies are carried out, and with these studies, the problems are trying to be resolved in our country. First, we have to look in the current situation. Our country, for a long period of time, carries out studies on inclusion, and accordingly, great provisions, law provisions, legislations, regulations were prepared and enacted, and there are many legal, there is a legal process for inclusion. However, if we still talk about this problem yet, then it means that these legislations and these regulations are not enough for the situation, for solving the problem. So let's look into the current situation. What we see is that in 2017, inclusion integration education application circular. Is this the first one? No, there were others previously, which foreseen, foresaw, foresaw that the children should start the preschool education with their peers. And also in 2018, we have the regulation on special education services. And what do we have in this? All disabled groups should be included within inclusion environment. This was the objective, and it is still in act. And of course, first our country started with inclusion education as well as the world at the very beginning. However, the inclusion could not meet the expectation or the need. So for that reason, the world went for integration. Why so? Because from every level of child should participate in education with mild, moderate, or severe disability. The children should have access to the education opportunities as a whole. So although it's late for our country, it arrived our country late, especially in the United States of America, years ago in 1990s and at the beginning of 2000, there are a lot of studies related to this concept of an integration, and we know that this concept continues with success. And the general question is this: then there are certain, let's say, there are certain items whether the inclusion can be successful. Indeed, we cannot say yes to this completely. Actually, it develops in time and it changes in time and it improves in time, but not only in our country, in many other countries in the world. There is no flawless and perfect application, and the integration continues likewise. And of course, everything is with the people. It takes place or happens with the people and among the people. This is the essence. Indeed, it is the perspective of the person to another, and also the perspective of the person on life. These are also the factors. And this circular in 2017, when we look into this, the individuals with special need for education, they can sustain, continue with their standard peers in the classroom, in the environment, with inclusion and integration. So this is an environment where it gives a comprehensive field for inclusion. However, where we stand right now, as I mentioned before, it does not have full success. So this is set for or articulated for each level. One of them is the preschool. So preschool inclusion. How it is this? In many of the studies, the preschool teachers are more inclusive. We see them and they accept more compared to other levels. And the children with special needs within the preschool environment indeed are accepted more easily and they can survive accordingly. However, in other levels, this becomes more challenging. And of course, in order for a child to be involved in inclusion, there are certain conditions. One of them is, for example, there is this educational evaluation, medical evaluation, and also the children go to the REMS, the guidance and research centers, and also some individuals' education plans are made for them, and also the teachers are involved, and there's continuous communication. So actually, we all know the principles for inclusion, and we know the steps, and we are trying to apply these steps. And the studies carried out and interviews carried out, the results that we have derived are likewise. There are certain limitations in somewhere. There are challenges. How do they and where do they start? They start with the classroom teachers, including the preschool teachers. There are certain challenges, and there are also the challenges for the children with special needs, and also for the children with healthy individuals, for the families. Of course, families are the ones with families which are the children with the special needs, as well as the families of the standard children. And also there are some educational applications create some limitations. Support educational service may be limited, and also there may be individualized education programs could be limited, guidance services, and also guidance and research centers as well as NGOs. And so there are many in a wide range. There are certain such limitations. So when we look into these, the teachers say that they do not have enough information knowledge about all these aspects. For example, a classroom teacher says that all through my educational life related to the children with special needs, I did not have any knowledge, did not receive any knowledge, or just limited ones, or just I attended certain courses and trainings and I learned very few. And in terms of application, I don't have any idea. I am not an applier, I'm not a practitioner, and I just get the information or knowledge, it stays there. And what happens is that a student is placed in my class, and there are so many different ones, so that I do not know how where to consult and who to work with, and how it is possible that I ensure the continuity. And also, we want to look into another thing from the perspective of the teachers. So let me show it likewise. They say that my attendance number is very high, and actually we know them all the time in general. And among this attendance, this child requires a special attention, especially the child with physical disability. For example, cannot use the hands, and if there's the problem of communication, I am challenged to protect that child, and I do not know how to approach and how to help that child. I don't know it, he or she says. And generally, in children, there is this problem of compliance as well as behavioral problem, and they have the learning disability and problem. So for that reason, most of the time, just the teachers say that they don't know how to deal with the issue. In the preschool, in a classroom, if it is a special school or in the state school, there are more than 15 students in a classroom. Then when this is the situation, if there is no assistant teacher, if there is no assistant, then how it is possible that I can include that child into a play? I don't know. And even though I know it, I'm insufficient, he or she says. And especially from the teachers of the primary or secondary school teachers, we hear about the families of the children in the primary and secondary school. We see that they are not accepting the disabled children, and Indeed, in the society, every one of each has got, even though we're not diagnosed, we have got certain special needs. So the standard students even get help from others to learn. So for that reason, our families, our parents should deal with this. The guardians should look into the issue much differently. However, we see that in the news that there are a lot of news about the unaccepted students, the disabled children, unaccepted to the school. So the family of the child with special needs have got certain demands, and the teacher has got certain limitations, and accordingly there are certain conflicts emerge. There are also sensational emotional problems, and the teacher says that if I do not know how to behave, then I can lose my confidence. And there is also the teacher's demand, she or he needs assistance, and I am not even rewarded. So there is no aspect that it is reflected on the salary even, for example. So if the problem grows more and more in the when it is in the primary school, in the secondary or high school or university, we see that there are other problems, like for example, oral and written examinations. We are a controlled examination, and the teachers, especially in the secondary school, there are branch teachers. There are a lot of different teachers. So how it is possible that to tell about the situation of the disabled child, to which child and which teacher would be approaching to the student in an understanding way, and what kind of specifications or adaptations would be made for this student. So these are all problems coming from the classroom teachers, and most of the time the administrators of the school, they say that they experience problems later to the teachers as well as the families, and of course, the teachers accept the situation, but they may be reluctant. So if this is not a situation because of themselves, if they are affected by the environment, and especially, again, for example, let's say that there's a cerebral palsy child, the physical conditions are put forward. And if the physical conditions cannot be ensured, then what happens is that the child or the children could be rejected for attendance to the school. And in terms of inclusion, for so long, in-service trainings have been given so far. Every year, these in-service trainings are certainly are given for the inclusion applications, inclusion students, but there's still this insufficiency, inadequacy. And the most problem is that even though there's a knowledge of the teacher, they do not apply it. So for that reason, they have the challenges in application. Of course, if the teachers do not want in which student the teacher would be placed, if the teachers would be reluctant, then the administrators should have a will, but I know that they're also challenged a lot. This is what we know. And there are really problematic situations. And there's also another thing, the teachers, from the perspectives of the teachers and administrators, what happens is that they accept first the children and afterwards they experience problems during the education. And the things that are experienced here are actually the least within the preschool term, because this is the time of games, plays. And so for that reason, even though there's not a second teacher, there might be an internship, there might be assistance. So within a play environment, it is rather easier to work with a child. And for that reason, the acceptance is high there. As I mentioned before, the families, the ones with the standard and healthy individuals, healthy children. Of course, I'm not telling, not saying that every one of them. Most of them, especially these may have adaptation problems with the inclusion students. If if the inclusion student performs an behavioral problem, and also if the student performs a behavioral problem as in order to express himself herself by pulling, for example, another student, or pushing, then these may create problems. Just against this, we have the we have the parents who have the children with special needs, and they have raised their children up until preschool education. So what they want their children to be included within the society, and they want to take the first steps. However, what happens is that they confront with a big disappointment. So when we look at the problem from the perspective of the children with special needs, we have to ask to which extent the child is ready or not. And when we think that they are ready, we enroll them in preschool or primary school. However, they confront a lot of problems, and they see a lot of friends, and they want to be with them. But if the inclusion principles are not applied in the best way and continued likewise, then there would be the disappointments, and then these children with special needs want to get away from the school. They just have abstinence, that if they abstain themselves. And from time to time, there might be some educational applications, educational adaptations. So there are certain indicators for adaptations. In the preschool implications, these are actually done through these adaptations, and there are these adaptations on play-based. So what happens is that the teacher is requested, or the teacher targets to integrate the student with special need into the group of other students. And if the teacher says that this student creates a problem, and also the behavioral level of the student is well evaluated, and accordingly, if a special program is not prepared for the student, then things do not come out to be right. For example, let's say the students with learning disability or difficulty, if some simplifications are made and adaptations made, then these individuals would certainly do homework as well, and would be able to contribute to the lesson, and even it is possible that they can participate in an examination in line and which is appropriate and compliant for them. However, here prototyping is not right for these children, and they make the children get away from the educational environment. And in terms of the guidance services, the families and guidance services guides should be working together, and they should go along well. But if there is no tight cooperation between the families and the guides, then there would be problems and challenges for the teacher as well as for the students. Sometimes in the guidance and research centers, some challenges are experienced. The families complain about the service they receive, but we know that these centers are so intense, so busy, that naturally from time to time, there might be some inconveniences. And now, from the perspective of the student, what we can say, there are certain items, general items. We know that none of the students is alike with the other. For example, let's say that a child with an autism cannot be the same with the other one. There might have such commonalities rarely. So for that reason, we should we should have an approach with certain, or we should approach in special way, specific to that certain person. So what happens is that in time things get more challenging, and at the end of the day there's a chaos, of course. So once again, especially the children might not be able to use the verbal communication, so this might create a big problem. So the children with special needs, they from time to time are victimized as well, and there are even children who are bullied. They are exposed to peer bullying, and they are not accepted within the group. They cannot be understood. They are teased, for example. And just in reverse, and there are certain groups, the children have good wills and intention. They want to help their children, but they surround that children in such a way that they don't give an opportunity to do something himself or herself. They always help that person. So the person or the child, the disabled child, even though would be able to do something on his or her own, it's not possible because of the help of the others. The guards most of the time experience problems during registry or enrollment in the school from time to time. When they try to enroll during the preschool education, for example, they have difficulties, they say so, and there are many guardians who receive or who are rejected. And of course, it could be the transportation problem, or it could be financial problems to afford the child's education, whether to educate in special education, private school or not. So what happens that, for example, therapy would not be provided, and the child needs to attend a physiotherapy, but because of these reasons, it could not be possible. So there might be that within the school, there are not certain systems like physiotherapy and so on. However, in some of the countries in the world, the child goes to such services after school or leave the school and go to that service. So accordingly, there might be some problems. Of course, there are also crowded classrooms, and this is a complete problem on its own. And when we cannot apply the individualized education problem, then it's really hard. And there are many recommendations, surely. Before I go with the recommendations, I would like to say something. So it means that at the level of preschool, we first, actually, we have to start the education in preschool for these disabled children. It's only about the registry enrollment problem. Within the program of the preschool education, there is this adaptation. What adaptation means is that the main program is adapted as per the needs of the special need child. So the teacher does this, and then the teacher does this as per the situation of the child with special needs. So for that reason, preschool teachers are more advantages. There are also special education subjects and inclusion subjects. And in terms of preschool teachers, we say that this is not enough when we come together. Indeed, the number of these subjects should be increased more. And related to this, we have started making a great effort. And in primary school, it's not only enough to provide in-service training in the primary school for the teachers, but also we should provide training opportunities where would they be able to apply them, and we should provide them an opportunity to work through the examples, best examples, and also it is also present in special education as well as in the preschool education. What can be the way of working interdisciplinary should be applied and should be provided to the teachers. This is very important. And our teachers, for sure, have to be supported within the classroom. Sometimes there might be the companions, but there might be some problems as well. But if there is a need, there should be an assistant for sure, which really simplifies our work, facilitates our work. First of all, we have to change our perspective, and the special need individuals, the individuals with special needs are within our community, society. Perhaps they are a lot, even we cannot determine the number, their number. For example, I'm wearing a glass. Perhaps another one is wearing an hearing aid, or another one might have another problem. So we might have health problems, and in different degrees, we might have certain diseases and problems, which shows that we need special needs. So we should not only recall the students, or excuse me, the children with cerebral palsy or sight disability when we say children with special need. We have to respect and accept, and as soon as we accept, we increase our effort. It wouldn't, we should not be limited only with legislation. So what we have to have the assistance in the classrooms. And for years I have been saying so, that these teachers who are dealing with the special needs students, their number of attendants in the classroom should be decreased. So I also would like to say that in the university, there's not the inclusion in the way we know it, but we know that there are more students with disabilities, and now our universities, now they try to arrange their physical conditions for the disabled students. And also there are the units for their units for the individuals with special needs regarding the without disability. So in terms of the examinations, some supportive services can be given. Most of the universities do that. What they do, they give the subject notes or lesson notes provide these notes to these individuals. Is it enough? No. So what happens actually? First of all, the physical conditions should be ensured. So related to school, there are many studies ongoing. So still we are discussing them. Then we should look into different models. And indeed, the special education authorities always look into those. So this is our last 10 minutes. I don't want, so let me tell this and then I will end. So in abroad, in developed countries, there's something. What happens is that as of the time of this school, start school, because that individual needs therapy, from the related parties. For example, from the municipality, the therapist comes to the school once or twice or three times a week to the school. So special educator comes to the school and goes into the class. So he or she doesn't, the individual does not stay with the special educator one-to-one alone, and they may be in the same class. So the special educator may be in the classroom for a while, and for other therapies, the therapists may come into the class, and accordingly, these therapists can intervene. Is this costly? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes. But we always have to head for the good, and the best approach is to serve for the child. Otherwise, the child would be helpless. And I just stop now, and then I would like to have your questions. Thank you very much for all the knowledge you gave us. There's a great question. I don't want to skip this question. Our participant asks, related to special condition of our child, is it a right approach that we do not tell about the status or condition of our disabled child? So, indeed, in contrary, if the inclusion program would be applied, especially in the young ones, for example, in order to enable them build empathy, for example, the child cannot work, or there's a sight imperative sight problem with certain place the teacher can tell the other students certain place can be played, and especially the children with special needs should be accepted to the school 1 week prior to the school year starts, so that the acquaintance would be gained. So the children should know within the class, but the teachers, of course, have got pedagogic formation, so for that reason, they know how to tell this. And another question is that how it is possible that autistic individual can protect the gains he or she has recorded so far. And of course, did you say that autistic child, the gains, how they can be protected against this society? Indeed, this is also valid for all the individuals developing differently. Of course, a child cannot be raised easily. We just make a great effort. So even though there's no problem of a child, this is really very hard, especially for the children with the children with the special needs are just like sensitive flowers. They are given a lot of effort to be raised. And again, in front of the society, we cannot protect our children at full. And especially when we look into the things that are experienced. So this is very important, not only against the special need children, for all the living organisms, the nature, for all other people. We have to create a perspective, so awareness, respecting differences, how we have to respect the way of living of people, and also to respect the challenges experienced by other people. So indeed, this is actually the awareness raising. So we have to change the perspective of all the communities in the world. And I also would like to ask a question. So you had just mentioned about the peer acceptance. In order to increase this, what could be done more? What would be your recommendations for the families? So the young children especially are very are inclusive. They accept the friends, but they may have communication problems. If this is so, then so what happens, for example, that they cannot understand the disabled child and then gets away from that child. So for that reason, everyone, not only the ones with the child special need, everyone as of the time of birth, they should raise their children respecting the differences and should pay attention to them being in the children with special needs or differences, because when they experience such a thing, they would certainly have a better life, and they should take them to the other students, other friends. They should help them to play with the other friends, and of course we should not leave everything for big dreams. Children from time to time may exclude, and it should be known that it is not that for that specific child has a disability. It is also valid for the other friends as well. This is just a characteristic of the child, so we should not give up giving, and we should pay attention that they all be together. Thank you very much. I think that we have exceeded our time. Thank you very much for the information you have given. If there are other questions, we would need it, we would receive it, and then we will give them to you and then share the answers to the participants. And once again, thank you very much for giving us your providing us this knowledge and information. And I also wish you a good day and success. And actually, the secret is the love. So when we love, everything is great. All of the children, no matter the adults or children, differences are wealth. And once again, have a nice day.